What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Huddle, your weekly playbook helping you gain forward progress in your career. Simply put, we are here to help you guys win. For all the new viewers, welcome to the team. I want
Welcome,
to
everyone.
give a quick shout out to Shag Tools and thank them for sponsoring this episode of the Huddle. Today's topic is transitioning from installer to business owner. Now, this is really like if you're an employee installer and you're looking at going out on your own. If you're a subcontract installer, you absolutely should already be a business. And if you're not, hang in there on this podcast and we'll give you some tips and tricks on how to, make that a reality, how to be, legal eagle, so to speak, and run your company where you can grow it.
Right.
All that being
Stop.
said, what's up, Mr. Daniel?
What's going on? Have people stop hiding from good old Uncle Sam and stuff, trying to see what they can get away with.
Well, I think that, every time we get into this particular topic and we go over it, what, two or three times a year, we bring this up,
Well, probably even
like
more than
topic.
that.
We bring it up more for sure, but two or three times a year, we have a topic that's kind of specialized at operating as a business, um, all the pitfalls and downfalls. But just to kind of open it up, I mean, it's really unfair to the rest of the market if you are not incurring cost that the other people in the market are incurring because they're doing it right. Um, and I say not fair. I don't mean it like, oh, that's not fair. I'm saying you're running the market for the rest of us because you bid things cheaper than the rest of us, and you can still get work and make a heck of a lot more money than undercutting everybody because you're not paying your you're not paying your FICA and your Social Security. You're not paying your installers as employees. You're 1099 in the 1099. Who's 1099 in the 1099?
Right. It's just
And
that vicious cycle, right? It just keeps on going and going, and then they think that, well, this is, again, we talk about this all the time too. This is the way I've always done it, so it's right, and
yeah,
that's
what
not
it
always
does,
the case.
well, it's hardly ever the case. You know, it's like, when is it right to not do it the right way? You can only 1099 down so many times before the quality is nothing. And people shouldn't be working for those kind of numbers. And it begs the question, well, like, if your sub can sub to somebody else for way, way less, then where do you why don't you just go sub to them? Because most of the time those guys don't have the insurance and stuff, so they team up with somebody who does. And really, the best thing we can be for our industry, every installer out there, hire employees as a sub. If you're a sub, you're the boss. Hire 10, don't hire 1099 or sub things out again. Hire employees, pay those social security, like, operate as a business, as a,
Right.
more like a business. And that's really what we're talking about.
Right. Jose's joining for a second, and his son's got a football game, his first football game of the year today. So,
Gotcha.
and then Mr. Garden here says, "Low man always sets the bar," and I mean, and it's not just installers we're talking about, right? Because some of these businesses are, that you go up against, you see their numbers in some of these public bids, and you're like, how are they even bidding at 20% under my cost?
Hmm.
But that's where those
And
those installers do come in, right? Because they're not doing things right. So they're like, I can just do this job for X amount just to get it, and I know that they're not going to get it because they have to charge more.
yeah, I mean, it goes on our level, like you said, like on the companies who are bidding these public projects, hotels, casinos, hospitals and such. Um, but even in the it's on our level, but even in the residential side, on the retailer level, it's a little different because all you really need in the commercial business is a DB, your business and some insurance, and then you can start bidding work. You can do it out of your house. You just need a warehouse to
Right.
or a storage unit. Like people hack and slash this stuff together. I know a guy that did that, but I can tell you 100% of the time that in my experience anyway, when people shortcut those things, when they're cutting and slicing and dicing and trying to, like, I don't know, almost hustle as opposed to have a business, like a side hustle almost,
Right.
kinda odd.
The
Um
the guys that are working for themselves and still say, "I got a side job to do this weekend." It's like, "Bro, you
You
this
don't
is your
quite get
business.
it.
There isn't a such thing as a side job anymore."
Yeah,
What's up, Georgie?
the, um the guys that I've seen do that in our area, they just don't make it. They don't stay around long term. Um, Most of the time, they don't attract good subs, do poor work, and they go out of business. I mean, people want to do business with another business that is responsible. So, anyway, today's topic is as relevant at the company level. When I say company, somebody who's bidding to the market. So whoever is bidding the project, buying the materials, delivering materials, that's the company. In the residential world, that's the retailer who's buying the materials and all that. On the other side, you have tons of subcontractors. That's who we're really talking to. We're going to be coming out with um, webinar series that really goes deep on this subject in particular. And when I say we're really talking to the installer, that's again not to say these things don't happen at the company's level. It does. It just more frequent in the installers. And what we found is it's mostly because installers, it's either fear or lack of knowledge. Fear of being legal because you think you got some, there's just fear built around it, whether it's maybe, being legit means you're on the radar or something like that. I've heard any multitude of things, but we're going to go through a few of the um, main items of being a business. But I thought I'd kick it off with you, Daniel, and ask you what was the hardest thing for you guys when you first went from just installing and kind of thought about starting a business? What was the biggest hurdle for you?
Man, we started at like ground zero with zero knowledge of running a business at all, right? It was, I'll be honest with you, when we first started, it was 2010, right? So I actually used a pirated piece of software to start doing invoices and stuff. And it was like when you're talking about doing things non-legit, I mean, we were right there. And then just trying to get the information like, do I need this? Do I need that? And I think that's where we were a little different though, because we were actually asking those questions and trying to find the information. Like we went to our we just had a DBA for a while, and that's the way we started. And it wasn't until I think 4 or 5 years in where we actually switched to an LLC, but it was that um constant pressure in the back of your mind, like, well, now we're kind of building up. What am I going to do to protect myself? And the hardest thing was trying to find that information. And now that we've kind of established ourselves, and it sucks because it would have helped out way earlier, but that's why we're here, right? To tell these guys there's resources out there for you. And all these people that we're talking to now, it's like the Small Business Administration, I mean,
Well, just whether it's an actual organization, the huddle itself. I mean, we've put enough information on here that you should be able to effectively go start your business. Now, we're in our webinar series, we're going to go in depth, trips, tricks, things of everything from legal to accounting to operation. I mean, we're going to get really deep on how to how to efficiently manage a project so that you know you're making money. That webinar series is going to be a master class in going from installer to business owner,
right,
for sure. And some of the topics, I'm going to list these off that we're going to be hitting in that webinar series, and we'll touch on a little bit today. But legal, so it's company setup, an LLC, is sole proprietor okay? When's an S corp? Should you consider that? C corp? And of course insurance. And Dave, he just put, it's like a fundamental like responsibility if you're an installer to have proper insurance. And I could not agree with you more. Then we're going to get into operations like estimating, project management, delivering materials, all this kind of good stuff. Tools that will help you in that, both, you know like physical tools as well as software. And then we'll get into accounting. We'll have and a lot of these will have like an attorney, and we'll have an accountant, an actual accountant, teaching portions of this webinar series. So it's going to be legit for you guys. Um, but yeah, so accounting, best practices, software, that kind of stuff. And then, of course, marketing and advertising yourself. And these are going in this direction because you shouldn't do any of these other activities before you do the one before it. So for example, you should not be operating, estimating, and doing stuff like that without having your company set up and your insurance in place first. And then accounting, you really don't have anything to account if you're not estimating and managing and actually doing the work. So we're going to get into a lot of those wins. It's when this also comes up, we'll teach you how to properly manage and maintain a good sub base if you are going to use subcontractors, or like both of us also have W-2 employee installers, and I honestly believe that's the best way to go. No matter where you're at, that's how I started. When I first started, it soon thereafter, when I started hiring guys, we were hiring W-2s. We never, for the first 5 years, 4 years, we didn't have any subs. We only outgrew and it was hard to keep up with just employee installers. But I think most companies should have a mix of both and learn how to treat them differently. So, one you're dealing with on a contract basis with clear objectives of work and a a price tied to that activity, and then the other you have employee installers.
yeah. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do what we do without that mix, right? And a big reason why we don't just do all employees is because then the employees start becoming overworked, and it's like you got to alleviate some stuff sometimes and have them, the other team, so to speak, in the back of your pocket, so that way it's like, hey, we're so busy right now, we need some help on some of these projects, and just pulling
Hmm.
people in.
Yeah, I think there's a good mix of like, most of our work gets done by subs now, and we use our hourlies in the projects that best suit them, but also to have that flexibility that if a sub is having a little bit of a problem, we can move hourlies over and help supplement them without pulling their contract and going to another sub or trying to get two subs to work together on a job. Sometimes that has to happen, but for the most part, we use our hourlies just for customer satisfaction to always be able to have somebody, hey, I need this little thing fixed over here. We can probably get somebody over to your facility within, 24 hours by just pulling a few strings. So,
Right. That
um,
just happened on a project too, where they were like, they called me and they're like, hey, can you come do these reducers real quick. Our turnover date is tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, someone's like literally within walking distance. Let me just send them over there real quick. And they're like, that's why we like to call you guys, because it's not only like that stuff, but they say we know who's going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
With some of these other guys that only have the subcontractors, just like sometimes they'll send people and then it's a different person on the next phase and then different person on the next phase, and they just like that. They know that if it's preferred is who's going to show up a majority of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's certainly different aspects of how you approach the business, but some level of a mix between the two. Like we're probably more 70-30 or 80-20. 70 to 80% of our work's done by subs, and about the other 20% done by our in-house guys.
Right, but you
We
have
used
a
to
lot
be
of the
closer
same
to
subs
50.
too that you use, right? It's not like
Mhm.
you're turning over and turning over. It's like, they still want to work with you, so it could
Well,
be
and
the
we
same
really
people
do
showing up.
use the hammer rating. If we're using someone new, the new VTI, we use what will be trade tap, Go Carrera. We use that to when we are using new subs. I mean, we actually use the hammer rating. Most of the guys, at the very least, even if they're better than what their hammer rating says, we're able to like have that discussion with them. What it does is it sets the tone that we want high quality, period. Like, hey, you got a crappy hammer rating. We may not come off like that, but your rating's pretty low. What can we do? What Tell me more about how you got to where you're at, because your rating doesn't support this project. And at the very least, we've been able to have some really meaningful discussions because of that. But the point is that you want to make sure you're using high quality guys. And for the subs of the world, um, you know, we'll go ahead and kind of start trickling into some of the content. You know, we have legal as first off because we know a lot of companies or a lot of installers who just go sole proprietor for, and they don't go ever get any like protection. So one of the reasons you have uh, an entity is so that if something drastic was to happen, that you are protected personally to a great extent. Not 100%, not always, not in all circumstances, but you have a layer of protection in lawsuits and accidents, things like this, that can protect your home and your personal property from being taken in a lawsuit, say so to speak. Now, obviously, I will always tell you to go talk to an attorney, get the best advice. Don't listen to me. I'm just a guy on the internet, but I'm telling you from experience that you you definitely want to have that in mind. Now, we're talking about really is risk management and compliance. Risk management because you want to reduce your personal risk. That's where insurance also comes in. It's risk management for your business. So you pile on these layers of risk management so that your business doesn't take you down. If your business thrives, it could be purchased because it's separate from you. There's a lot of reasons to start a business, start a actual company. Um, you guys, when you started, did you guys set up as an LLC or?
No, we were a DBA for many years before we actually switched over to an LLC, and we kind of did that the same time where we realized, because when we were working, we were paid on a 1099, and then that's how we continued. And then there was a point where it's like, you start talking to more people, and they're like, well, we'd come work for you, but we want this and we want that, and it's like, man, we better start making some changes. So we kind of did everything all at the same time. And it's like, if we're going to do one thing, let's package it together and get the LLC and switch everyone over to employees on a on a W-2 instead of a 1099. And then, the following year it was, all right, let's start looking at different things to add. We added insurance and um, so health insurance and the IRA. So we have retirement, and it didn't all
Second,
happen at the same time, right? But it was things that we seen the market asking for.
well, and a lot of those things will come later, but at the very least, you want to have a legal setup that accomplishes your personal and professional goals. So, of course, we'll have an attorney kind of talk through these things, but there's a time when an LLC is the best. There's a time when an S corp is the best. A time when a C corp is the best. And I've owned all three of those types of entities. Own several now that are in different um, setup, and they're for different reasons. One thing that goes along with that legal is the insurance, and we're talking about your very first you should always have is liability insurance, and then of course if you have your W-2s and you have employees, you need to have your workman's comp. Those are the two most important insurances to have, and that right there gets you like set up into well, like Daniel just said. I mean, it took years, right, Daniel, before you guys set up that way. Um, the that helped allow you, like, you start operating like a business and doing the other things you were talking about.
Yeah, and like we said, it doesn't all have to happen at the same time, but you at least have to start looking at things like, I mean, just like you said, you're protecting yourself. Look at everything. Look at your family. It's like if I'm a DBA and something goes wrong on the job site tomorrow, and you know the guys that work with you are your best friends, right? Until something happens, and then it's like they're gonna do whatever they can to
Maybe
protect themselves too.
Jose's jumped on the stream. Welcome, Jose.
With the stunner shades on.
I've been listening, but no signal out here in the boonies for the first week of football.
Well, congrats. We were just talking about kind of legal setup, and how each one has its purposes to make sure to talk to an attorney. Um, but you definitely want to have a business setup and then get insurance.
Right.
Past
And
that, a
even
lot of
if it's just your accountant that you're talking to, right? They can really lead you into the right direction. They'll say the same things. I'm not an attorney, but this is what I've seen work and this is where I think you should go.
well, getting with both of them. I
Yeah.
mean, because your next the I put operations in front of accounting because you really got to have something to account for. So you need to be doing some activity that's going to produce money. Operations is like estimating jobs. Where do you find the work? And we won't get into all that here, but there's a lot of different places we'll share in the webinar of where to go find the estimates, where to go get accounts that can help you to find projects to bid on, setting up your vendors, setting, and that moves right into accounting. But setting up vendors and getting accounts set up and all of that is kind of operationally important for your success. Uh, Estimating a job poorly will make you lose money as fast as anything. It's hard to come back from a bad estimate. Although, if you're really good at project management, you'll find some tricks and tips in our webinar that will kind of help you through that. Um, but those operations is where the rubber meets the road. It's where all the risk is, and it's where all of your all your profits made is in operations. You can lower cost by and always maintain your cost, but you know operations where the money's at. That's where you bid the work,
Where
get the
you
work.
where you actually need to know that you have to be profitable and you're not just working to work, right? A lot of people are
Yep.
just working to work, and when you're not keeping track of this stuff, you don't have any concrete evidence that you're actually making money.
Yeah, so really probably could have been maybe the first thing we said was a mindset shift from working and owning your job to starting to build systems and putting the tools in place and the structure in place for you to own, run, and manage a successful flooring business. Operations is also where you never, dare I say, you never arrive if you're just, it's like you're always trying to improve something, always a new system. Um, I'm going to give you some tricks in the webinar that we use, and I know that Preferred has used to help your operations out, help you run smoother, put systems in place that'll help you to kind of guide through, excuse me, some of the processes easier, and having kind of a process management so that people can come in, start doing a job that is directed, and they can automatically start creating value for your business. That's where operations can make you the most money, is when you have systems in place that allow people to come in and be successful out of the gate.
Right. And it's way easier to do when it's just one or two people than it is when you're already in full swing of things. Ask me how I know.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's hard, right? Because you're still, you're on the job site a majority of the time. So it's like, when am I going to have time? But I mean, the way that we were built, it was actually like my son, when he was younger, he was like, all you do all day, Dad, is type, 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 right? Because I would get out of work and then I would come home and then I'd get on the computer and it's like billing and this and that, and it's always something.
Yeah, it's the earlier you start doing some of the stuff that I think Preferred started doing several years into their venture. um, I had the benefit of having a um, project manager from the company that I worked at um, come with me when I started my business, and he had some office experience and kind of set up a QuickBooks, and we set up a S corp, and so we started doing some of the things automatically. Right. The one thing we didn't do is write down our processes or log anything that we did that happened every day, because anything that you do as an owner that happens every day can probably be systematized for somebody else to do. I want to take a minute here and again thank Shag Tools for being this episode's sponsor, and have you watch a quick video from our friends over at shagtools.com. Yeah, thank you, Shag Tools. I always get laughing at.
Yeah, we tried popping it up at the same time again.
Yeah. But I always get a crack out of Jorge Shagalistic. Thank you to Shag Tools for being our sponsor today.
Shagalistic.
Remember Huddle 10 for your discount code, 10% off of your tools over at Shag Tools. You can get all the best brands at the best prices at shagtools.com.
Yes, sir. And Kevin says his only question is, how do you feel about your fantasy football team this year?
Well, Started strong in the draft. Before you know it, you fall off. I've got I've got a rough year ahead of me, but you know what? Last year I thought I picked a great team, and I think I finished dead last. So probably flip that. I'm going to improve at least one spot this year, Kevin. I'll at least not be last. That's my that's
You were
my
last year.
yeah. I finished dead last in our league.
Hey, better than me.
How do you feel
I don't even
about
do it.
yours, Kevin? Is what I'm asking. Shoot. All right. So as we're continuing here,
Where'd you guys leave off? Where'd you
well, we
guys
were
leave off,
talking
brother?
about
I want to make sure that I'm not chiming in on some
we
old
were
stuff.
talking about operations and how systematizing a lot of those operations as you see them happening
Yeah.
day by day, like the same thing. That it's probably something you can put into a system and a process and hire somebody much more affordable than you as the owner, uh, and often much more efficient 99% of the time at doing those types of duties. So we were talking about operations, how that's really systematized, doing the operations where you make your money, and then systematizing and putting those processes into play. That's where you increase profits.
Yeah, and it's way easier today than ever before with AI right now. I mean, it's
Oh
definitely
yeah.
a tool to have in that toolbox.
Yeah, from AI all the way to just having if I was to give any advice to my younger self in operations, I would say get fantastic at hiring. Get absolutely fantastic at hiring and firing people. Like just the employment side.
How do
Well,
you do that?
there's some people who are the best at it, and those are the ones who really rock and roll. If you can hire and fire well, meaning being ethical, doing things the right way, but at the same time being very efficient. Um, it's a little secret to success. Next on our list is accounting. So we'll you want to get with an accountant, obviously, and I would recommend that every installer have an accountant and put together a system that allows you to track your expenses and your revenue. So how much are you bringing in and how much are you paying out, and finding the delta there so you're operating a profitable business. There's best practices and software and thing that surround this. QuickBooks we talk about a lot. That'll take you a long way. Just QuickBooks, um, and a few other pieces of software for estimating. But that'll take you a long way. You can also do it offline with Excel spreadsheets.
Right?
Um,
And
I
Google
te-
Sheets is free.
Google Sheets is free, and it works just like a spreadsheet. So you can do that. You can also do what I did, which is, you know, probably not the best way for the accountant. But man, I had a file full of freaking receipts, and I just wrote down on every receipt what expense it was for, and just handed it to my accountant every week. This was a third party. They did everything but payroll for us, and we still have an accounting firm that does a big part of our. As we grew, you got to start getting reviewed or audited financials for your bonding companies and stuff. That's down the road, but for a lot of companies starting off, you probably don't want to get into a bonded and project situation right out of the gate. But if you do, there's practices and best practices to that as well. But accounting's one where I think a lot of people fall down, guys.
They do, and it's because and
It's
it's not
hard.
even hard. It's simple when you know how to do it, right? But it's just the learning curve to know how to do it. I was in that too, and it's just like the bookkeeping aspect. Where does this go? Where does that go? And like Paul was saying, we're gonna have a webinar series and a deep dive into like chart of accounts and stuff like that, so what is happening when you get these receipts, where do they have to be allocated to? And then, a lot of stuff is down the road,
So
but
I want
in
to
order
add
to
Well,
get
it
some of
doesn't
these
it
these
doesn't have to
jobs,
be
want
you
to add to that.
if you do want to like do it all right out of the gate, the webinar series is going to give you all the tools that you're going to need to do that. But that being said, you can start with starting an S corp and getting a corporate. Now you have your corporate attorney. Have an attorney write up your S corp paperwork. Go get yourself an accounting firm that specializes in construction, and now you have your accountant. Um, but there's a lot of things in that accounting side once you get into being a company dealing with general contractors with how you have to put your pay apps in and all this stuff. And we will get into that, just not here. It just is so deep of a subject by itself. That's why all of this is being put into a webinar series, because we couldn't possibly go through
Yep.
any of this with great detail that would serve you in a way of being able to actually start a business and be successful. And all of that success falls in that operations, which is in your hands and your ability to go out, get business, and get the business done. But from a structure setup, the webinar series will do a great job and give great service to each one of the topics. But accounting's just one where I see guys, they just take in money. I mean, I still see guys, they go to their bank, they withdraw the money, they're out handing out hundreds to their guys. Like that's still how they're operating. Um, I don't think accounting's hard. I think it's scary. And um, having an actual accountant on your side that can help guide you would be a almost a must. Once you start doing, if you're an installer and you're doing 500,000 to 1 million or million plus a year as an installer, you should probably have an accountant. So, and some software. And then
All of the
we
above.
we'll hit on marketing and advertising, which is how to market yourself, your unique stance in your market. What are you bringing to the table? It's different. And then advertising, where to go to place ads, word of mouth, location can be important if you're doing retail, those types of things. But yeah, so I mean, that's really today's topic is the four biggest items, and there's many more if you broke down each one of these, but legal, operations, accounting, and then marketing and advertising. You could say branding, which would be in your marketing and advertising. You could say purchasing, which is in your operations, and you could really beat this down. But the one that I see the most benefit to the installers is just get yourself set up right. I think all four at level one is better than none of them. You know what I mean? Like get to level one on all four of those main subjects, and you're going to be doing more than 90% of the people who start a business.
I got a couple questions, and maybe this is for to help the audience as well. Um, going back and looking back when we all started, and some of the older gentlemen that are established that are in the audience as well. Do you think that it's easier to start from ground zero now than it was 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago? And the reason I ask is that there's a lot of information out there now. There's a lot more tools available at your fingertips to get the information you need to make sure that you are taking those right steps and make sure you're not missing something as far as starting in, DBA, LLC, accounting, beginner accounting, advanced, depending on where you want to be at. Um,
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with what your strengths are, and then
mhm.
hiring, whether it's hiring a company or hiring somebody on staff to do the things you're not so good at. Um, you mentioned like early on Well, early on is I think it's easier to get set up and make sure you're paying your taxes, for example, and you're doing the things necessary to check the lowest level boxes to call yourself a company, and doing those legally and doing those right. Um, and then you can get into, are you building your company to sell it? Are you building it as a lifestyle company? Are you building
Yep.
it to pass on to your children? Like, what is your goals and purpose? And
That
then
goes
you got,
with Garden's comment a little bit too.
yeah, it does. He says you need to have a new business. Let's oh, me and Daniel are good
Yeah,
at that.
every single time.
You
Here.
do it. You need to have a new business growth plan every year. And what that says that is not being said is that means you have to know where your successes and failures were the previous year to be able to grow from them. Like, it indicates that you know where you were at to have a growth plan. And Dave built a great company, guys, so you should listen to him. um,
Yeah.
he's saying that because he would have been able to tell you the year before what was his revenue, what was his, cost of goods sold, what was his overhead, then what's his net profit before taxes, how much did he actually have access to after taxes. And then that was a either a good or a average or a great year or maybe even a poor year, and then you can adjust and make business growth plans off of that. So,
And growth doesn't mean making more money and getting more jobs, guys. Growth just can be for making the right decisions to help your company stay successful. Success is not always doesn't always more money doesn't always equal more success, right? More jobs doesn't always equal more success. So uh,
yeah, I mean,
growth
you bring up
plan.
a good point. Growth could be growing in your knowledge and growing your systems and that type of growth. I think Dave's probably aiming more at the revenue growth,
Oh yeah,
but you bring a really good point. We have had years where we did more money, more revenue, and made less profit, less bottom line profit on a bigger year. Um, that's not good. Like, why do more work and make less money? And part of that is like figuring out how to go, from 0 to a million. And then how do you go from a million to 5 million? And then from 5 million to 10 million. And then that 10 million to 15. And each one of these kind of jumps require a whole new level, maybe not a whole new level, but some level up of your skills and ability to manage and uh, 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 produce profit from that work. And it's easy to kind of lose sight of everything as the owner. So you got to have systems and processes and people in place to pick up that stuff that's out of your peripheral. Make sure that you've trained them and taught them correctly, and you have good systems and ways of doing business that those things can happen without you.
like my boy Biggie
Because
said, mo money, mo problems.
Oh, is
They
Paul
mo
freeze.
frozen? Paul, you were frozen for a second.
I thought it was you guys that froze
No,
up. I'm over
you
here
froze. I
just
said
chatting
it looked like I
away.
said that. Looked like I said more money, more problems, and you just look like I don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, I finished your sentence for you because I knew exactly where you were going. I thought you froze up anyway. But yeah, there are certainly more things to manage. You got to have higher insurance. You got to watch your expenses. One of the things that can get out of control on you without you even noticing is expenses. Like, you just don't realize it. Next thing you know, you're spending all this money on things that you don't have to have anymore. And I'll say that one of the nicest things is when you go in and you go to strip expenses out of the company and you find a bunch of credit card like charges, you know, that, oh, I don't need that anymore. You save five, 800, $1,000 a month because you just canceled a bunch of crap that you don't need, newsletters or some subscription to this or subscription to that. And that stuff can get out of control on you. So you want to have a method of like making sure you're checking those things. And that's where I found a ton of value is the chart of accounts being accurate that Daniel was talking about earlier. And I don't want to get in the weeds so far that I lose people, but having your chart of accounts right, where you can see which line items you're spending what on, and then create a budget for that next year. Um, and that'll help allow you to grow, but also keep your expenses under control.
Yeah. And we have it set up, so that way we can track the revenue from different sources too, so we can know which market is the most profitable for us. So that way we can start making decisions like it's this market right here, so we need to start bidding more of these jobs.
Yeah, and if you put that into an installer's perspective, it could be the same thing, like tracking your carpet revenue versus your vinyl revenue installing wise, and where are you making the most money? You know, um, sometimes it's not the product you get the most down in, or even the one that you have the highest revenue in. It's a product that is just it fits maybe your skill set, or you have an installer on staff skill set that you're really efficient and you make really good money on. But knowing that, man, I make a ton of money when I do X, Y, or Z product will help you understand your growth process. And like Jose was talking about earlier, it doesn't have to be growth in money. It could be growth into something we've covered in this podcast many a times, which is into new sectors. Um, you know, we're going to be opening a maintenance division. We do some maintenance anyway, and for our clients, but we're going to open up a full maintenance division because of being able to analyze things. That's not a decision that just got made, uh, but that's growth. It's not a huge revenue growth year one, but it's growth in how we're approaching taking care of our customers. It's growth in going into a new sector. So be the same as an installer going from a carpet layer to, binding stuff and starting to do more spindled stairs and runners and area rugs, or a tile guy deciding to get into larger panels, or tile guy deciding to start looking at hardwood, which is from our last week's podcast, is starting to really increase in the marketplace, starting to gain share again. So
Yeah.
if you think about it, growth can be a many a different things, but it does all end up in how do you grow your top line, and how do you manage it effectively to have the most at the bottom line when you're done. When did you guys start really considering marketing and advertising?
Um, you know what? That's a hard one to answer because I've always been, I would say we've always been pretty shameless when it comes to it, but I think Daniel strategically started attacking it a few years ago. Um, and Daniel could take over on that one because that was his. Is just a lot of it we relied on word of mouth, family, friends, and just doing a good job and having integrity, and that's what we relied on a lot. But then the shameless plugs here and there, and then Daniel kind of took over a few years ago and started doing work.
Well, just a quick note, I would say that, just like I said, accounting, this is one that a lot of installers miss. I feel like advertising or marketing, some level of that, they want to do, like, and almost get out ahead of themselves with that before they have the other stuff in line. I know several guys that have gotten just too busy to do any of the other stuff so quickly because they did do good at marketing or advertising themselves, or they did do good work on top of being good at marketing and advertising themselves. And then they're going back trying to figure out how to structure their company and how to do
Yeah.
these other things. And Daniel said it earlier. It's like it's so much harder to do in the heat of the battle.
I will say that we did pay for some local companies to do some advertising for us, like, you know, paid for a little spot here and there, and they got us zero business. And I think that's when Daniel was like, "Yeah, we ain't paying nobody to do that. I can get zero business by myself."
I can make no money on my own. Is that what you
Yeah,
Yeah,
said?
it's way cheaper to make no money on your own than to pay someone to make no money.
way more cost effective. Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of those like advertising and that type of stuff. I mean, there is just you can spend your way into oblivion with advertising and marketing stuff that don't pan out. I always tell people the reason this is last is because you need to really know and understand your business before you start doing that to get it right.
know
And so
your
you
strengths
got
for
to
sure.
have your legal setup, have your accounting setup, go through some projects and operations, find your strengths and who you are as a business before you start marketing and advertising it. Many of the guys market and advertise themselves, which is good if you're an installer, but they're better at that than they are setting up the systems and making sure that they're, you know, the other stuff is covered. Either hiring somebody to cover it for them or them having the knowledge to cover it for themselves.
Right. Rollins says you have to keep on reinventing yourself, and then Dave says the Chamber of Commerce was a building block for them, and it was for us too. And
Yeah.
I mean, we're on a podcast now, but the I also listen to podcasts, and that's where a lot of it started, was listening to podcasts and listening to other people that have been through it. And it's like, and once you realize that business is business and you can kind of relate any business to another, it becomes way easier, because it's just a matter of, all marketing is marketing. It's just, what are you going to market?
Yeah, getting clients and delivering value.
And who are you marketing to?
That's
That
now
was
the values in multiple different things if you're selling software, or you're selling flooring or whatever you're selling. But we like to say here we're selling an experience, not flooring, because right down the street you can go buy flooring. You can buy flooring at 5, 10 different other places around here. With us, you're buying experience and expertise. And when I say experience, I'm not talking about our experience. You're buying the experience of getting a job done with us versus getting a job done with someone else. And a lot of times, our goal is to make that as fluid and seamless as possible.
Right. And then Jorge does, bring up a good point. Once you're there, you do have to be consistent, right? Once you're in front of
yeah.
people, you always have to get back in front of them. It's that consistent part. That's really the hard part, is because you can see some traction and you're like, oh, we're good now. But no, it's just never ending. Just like
It never stops.
the
Well, like Garden said earlier, right? He said the low man sets the bar, right? Like, and that's going to create that's your control, that's your consistency. So if you
Well, I think he was
consistently,
talking more about the bid. It's like low bid is setting the
I think
bar,
it, I think it
and
goes
but
across too. Like,
you certainly can apply it in different manners.
what do I used
Um,
to say? You're only as weak as your best install, or you're only
Good
as
as your
good
weakest.
as your weakest installer. Yeah.
Well, what I tend to really love and lean on processes, procedures, and systems anymore. But step one is like the most important thing is be legal and know how much money you're making. Then you can start to build off there. You can say, I want to make more money. What worked? And how can I double down on that stuff? What didn't work? Can I make any adjustments and improve myself there or improve my business there? But it's, you know, it's tough if you don't track anything. And so many guys just do the work, they get paid, they pay their guys, and they live off of what's left.
a lot of the guys over here, like, they don't keep track to the point of someone gives them a work order. When they're done with the job, they sign the work order, they turn it back in. That's their invoice,
That's their
and then they
invoice.
get
Yeah.
paid.
Yeah, I
Or don't
really
get paid.
just I I would be talking to a lot of flooring companies. I've traveled the nation talking to a bunch of different flooring companies, and it would blow your mind if I named some of them on how they treat their installers. Um, and when I say treat their installers, they think they're doing them a favor by just doing all their paperwork. Well, first off, you're treating them as an employee. And I know a lot of them do it because they want to have control over them. If the sub would break out and gain their power, I should say, and this industry would change because of it. There, you guys are the
Yeah.
driving force. If you want this to change, it's going to be on the installer community to change it and take responsibility for your work, turn in your invoices. You should not want a flooring company to have control over your invoicing and your your like you should have the
Just your
ability
financials,
to
period.
just yeah, you should have the ability to look at the job, consider whether or not you want to do it for that amount, not just getting assigned work, going and doing the work and getting a paycheck. You're letting the company treat you as an employee if you do those things, and you might be able to just be like, yeah, well, I don't have to do it though. Well, it doesn't matter, and until the poop hits the fan, the poop didn't hit the fan, and when it does, that's when you realize that you needed insurance and you wish you had all the records to prove that you paid the right amount
Yeah.
in taxes, and you wish you had all the paperwork to prove that that guy that said he never got paid from you on a job and filed a mechanics lien, and now you have to pay him, that you have proof that you paid him. Like all of that stuff, it it really matters when it matters, and that's what building a risk model around your business and you know, trying to lower your risk profile is part of owning a company, managing your risk.
Guys, I got to step away. They're starting. The game started a minute ago. But
Well,
I
I
do
think
want
we're
to.
getting
I just
ready to
want to.
close it out.
All right. Well, here, let me say what I got to say. And on this is for the beginning of the transformation. I guess everyone just don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you're leaving, if you're an installer and you're leaving, do it the right way. Don't take any shortcuts. Let it hurt at the beginning instead of in the middle or at the end. Let it hurt at the beginning. Um, Lean on people for information. Like lean on them hard, squeeze it out of them if you have to, but don't be afraid to ask the questions because otherwise failure is imminent.
Well, and I'd like to point out what you said earlier. Is it easier now? I would say, yeah, it's easier, but a lot of people also have paralysis analysis now because there's so many
Yeah.
things that you can go with. But picking one and going with it, whether it's an accounting system, attorney, a, a entity structure, just moving forward with that as opposed to waiting. But yeah, there's a lot of tools out today we didn't have 20 years ago.
Yeah, and like for the first few years, yeah, it's a grind, but you're already grinding, so it's just a different kind. And eventually, it will get easier, and then it'll get harder again because then you'll have to put some more systems in place, and then
Yeah.
it's just. But you're used to it, and it's
Yeah,
what
Well,
you're
it's
built
kind of
for.
that. It's kind of a stair step, isn't it? Like you
Yeah,
get to the
yeah.
next level and you got to start building again.
yeah. I mean,
It only gets easier
if you're
because you
just
get
going like
used to it.
this, if you're just going like this, that means there's no growth, right? So it's going to be harder every step you take. But that's how you build that growth and just reach out to people, man. Like, don't
Well,
be shy.
and for you installers on here, there's going to be a lot of opportunity if you are looking at like really building your business. If you wanted to turn into a full fledged business in many parts of the United States, there's going to be a drop off in the old, I know I bought a guy up in Kansas City. He was just going to shut down at the end of the day and figure out how to close his business. It was just him and another person, and they operated out of his house, and he did good business, though, a good amount of business. And there's these cases all over the United States where they don't have a succession plan. A boomer is going to retire. It's
Yeah.
going to leave a void, a vacuum in the marketplace, and you guys can fill it. We're certainly going to do our best to fill it. And so installation is going to be that knowledge that you have from being an installer is invaluable in the office if you can make the transformation into a business owner. And
Choose
even
your
if,
circle wisely too.
good advice.
Man,
And even if you stay on your knees for a lot of years, I know plenty of guys that did that for forever and did really well. It was always the guys that paid their guys right, took care of their money, reinvested, like just didn't live off of their money. And there's a lot of tricks to doing that. And we'll share them with you in the webinar. Well, Jose, you got a game to get to, and we got a podcast to close out on. So I am going to go ahead and do that all at the same time. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, all the great comments, and really appreciate you guys. Give us a like and subscribe if you catch us on YouTube or Facebook, Instagram, wherever you catch us, wherever. Give us some love. Go see Shag Tools. Remember Huddle 10 for your discount. Go see Shag at shagtools.com. Want to thank them again for being a great sponsor. Want to thank you guys as always for being here and being great at what you guys do. And well, we've all been in the car.
man, I just had to
a
hang up. I
dozen
was getting
times.
mad.
So.
I was getting mad at the signal.
And just always remember that many small time make big time.
Great thing to leave off with. Thank you guys so much, and we will catch you guys next week.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. See ya.